this, we have college freshman panelists. Alab Murali, Nivi Jagadesh, Nikhil Venkatesh, Shreya Mohan, and Sid Yarlagara.
Alright, so we know how teenagers work really hard in high school so they can get into a very, very good college, but that's really about the end of it. Like, they do good in high school and then they just go off. So we never really know what happens afterwards. So, like, we don't know, is college fun? Like, is it just a bunch of hard work, or does it require the same amount of work? So today we have with us 5 panelists who are ready to share their college life with us.
And so without further ado, we would like our panelists to introduce themselves and share their insights into college life with you, starting with Alab. We have asked each speaker to pick a topic on which they expand upon. So let's get started.
So hi everybody, I'm Alap. I go to Georgia Tech. I'm a double major in biomedical engineering and computer science. So I'm not going to read everything up there because I only get 5 minutes. But what I want to talk to you guys about is kind of what happens after you get admitted. So the attitude you should be going into college with. Once you get accepted, it's like, hooray. But what happens after that, it's like you're stepping through a door into the next part of your life, right? So what's the attitude that you need to step through that door with? The number one thing I think it's bullet point 1 up there. If you go into college thinking you already know what you want to do with your life, then don't even bother going to college because you're not going to learn a single thing. I went into college not knowing anything about what I wanted to do. I applied to a wide variety of universities because I wasn't sure if I wanted to get into engineering, technology, or healthcare, or whatever it was. So I want to share how I got into 3 things in college with you guys. Number 1, so before I say that, let yourself find inspiration in the places you least expect. That's one thing I think everybody will kind of agree on. So number 1, how did I get into computer science and tech culture in general? I came in as a hardcore, like, kind of nerdy kid, all about biology and chemistry, and I was like fixed on medical school. But I came to Georgia Tech and I saw all these like smart people all around me, and I was like, so I went to a hackathon, which for those of you guys don't know what a hackathon is, it's like collegiate competition. Nationally, every major university has hackathons. It's where you code for 36 hours straight and make whatever you want. So I saw this guy it was like 4 in the morning, he was high on espresso shots of coffee, and he was trying to hack into Delta Airlines security network. And I was like, oh my god, if this guy can do this at 4 in the morning, high on coffee, there's like so much I can do if I learn technology. So I came in as a biomedical engineering major, and then after that I kind of got inspired to pursue computer science as well. Number 2, so one of my activities up there I'm very much into stopping sex trafficking. How that happened was the summer after high school, so I was trying to adjust to the whole I'm done with high school kind of life. And I went to India and I saw a woman being sold. And it was the kind of the darkest moment of my life at that point. So I decided after then that stopping trafficking, getting into nonprofits, social enterprising, that was the kind of stuff I wanted to do. And I realized that I kind of reached a fork in my life. I was kind of heading down this engineering, medical school kind of road, but I realized that I needed to stop for a second and think about what it was I really wanted to do, and that I needed to find inspiration in all the people out there who are suffering from war, brutality, and suppression. So I'm into nonprofits, social startups. You can kind of read about all that up there. Number 3, how did I get inspired to combine technology with healthcare? So basically, it was on Facebook. I saw a Spanish company that was building windmills for clean energy, but here's the thing. Their windmills don't have blades, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of a windmill. But I was like, that's really cool because they started thinking out of the box and they found inspiration where they least expected. And the main thing, they stopped thinking about things in the traditional sense. So I realized that I kind of had a dream for quite a while. I wanted to robotize healthcare completely. So hopefully in the future we can basically have a country with no doctors. Everything is robotized. So I know that's kind of scary, but it'll work one day. And there are a lot of benefits to it, too, technology. So, what was I going to say? So yeah, I started thinking outside of the tradition. Okay, I have 1 minute left. I was trying to think outside of the box, and I realized that when people were trying, like there are people around the world with, like crises in Nepal and all that, trying to bring as many people into those countries as you can for relief efforts. But how about if we instead, start bringing robots into the country, start providing healthcare? Like, it's a crazy idea, but everything starts off crazy. So number 2, don't be afraid to get stared at a lot. And I'm just going to go through this really quickly. So there was this guy in my first day of chemistry class. He walked in 10 minutes late to class on the first day, and he walked straight to the front row. And he was wearing Google Glass. So everybody was like, what a glasshole, right? So we were like, oh my god, that kid's just a nerd. He's not going to do anything in life. Turns out that kid is now, in 1 year, he got a full-time position at the Department of Defense for software engineering. He created a Google voice recognition technology, works for Google now, and he started a startup that sells software to startup banks around the world. So I was like, so basically it's okay to be different in college. In fact, the fact that you're different is how you make the best friends and gives you the best experiences. So be the coolest, weirdest, most outgoing person you can be in college. Meet as many people as you can, because that's how you will be the most motivated and the most inspired. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nivi. I go to UNC Chapel Hill. I'm pre-med, and I have a major in psychology, minor in chemistry, and probably a double major with public health. So today I'm going to talk about extracurriculars, and my stuff is just up there. But for extracurriculars in college, it's kind of the same thing when you come into college from high school, and it's basically to do what your focus is, as well as what you're passionate about. But it's more quality than quantity, and especially if you're going to go to a professional school like med school, dental school, pharmacy school, journalism, or like graduate programs, it's important to make sure that you do something all 4 years of undergrad, just like how they say in high school, but then you have to make an impact. And the thing is, the difference between high school and college is you're a fish in an even bigger sea. And you have to be noticed, and if you want to get into these grad programs and professional schools, you have to be noticed on your campus in the first place. So when you take extracurricular activities into consideration, you have to make sure you do something that you're passionate about. And so if you're like a computer science major, you should do something on campus related to that. But also you should do something that you're really passionate about, that you're going to continue to keep doing for the rest of your life, because continuity is more important than having just like 20 or 30 activities that you do every day. Now, I want to go into pediatrics and as a doctor, and obviously when you go to college, what happens is you join these clubs and you hear about these events and you go to your friends' interests and like the clubs they're in and the events that they participate in, and you kind of open your mind to how much is actually out there. And there's a reason why people change their mind regarding majors and minors when they go into college. And it's not because they're losing focus, but it's because they're finding more about themselves and what they want to actually do for the rest of their life. And extracurriculars is a big part of this, because when you join a club or when you go to these events, you find an aspect of yourself that you think you like in this activity that you could potentially do. For example, I was looking through what I wanted to do for extracurriculars, and I came across this thing called HYPE, and it's basically helping provide enrichment for children or helping youth by providing enrichment. And it's basically a tutoring center for children that are in elementary school. And the biggest thing about this is these children are from underprivileged neighborhoods in North Carolina and Chapel Hill in general. And so they're not kids that you normally would go to school with or would have gone to school with, because Stanton obviously is a very diverse community, and you might run into people that are underprivileged, but not as much as you would in situations like this. So you get the opportunity to interact with people that aren't like you, because on a college campus, yes, you interact with students like you from different backgrounds, but also it's important to make sure you know what your position is in the world compared to everybody else, and there's a lot of people that are not like us, and extracurriculars in college kind of like help you to find your position and what you want to do and like how you want to help people. And that's a big thing about service, which is for med students and for pre-med students, a big aspect of your application when you apply to medical school is what volunteering opportunities did you do, or like who did you interact with. And most of the time the first thing they look to see is if you interacted with someone that's not of a similar age group. And so that'd be like, for me, like elderly or like children. And considering I want to go into pediatrics, it just kind of worked out. So I did some hospital volunteering as well, and then I'm on a dance group, and that's also to give myself some sanity on campus. I noticed that I didn't do the dance group my first semester of college, but having danced for all 4 years of high school and having had that be a big part of my life, suddenly not having that was really weird. And being on a college campus where you know a very small amount of people, because it's not like high school where you know everybody, you have to, ooh, my time is going down, okay. So you have to find a way to get an outlet and a way to settle in. And it's kind of like adding on to what Alap said about attitude and how do you want to fit in. And so that was my way, and the dance team kind of is like a family. So you help each other, not just with dance, but also schoolwork, because there was a lot of pre-med students on there. There's students that do different majors, and you learn about their life and what they've been through. And they're all from different years in college as well. So it's important to get feedback from people that are older than you, and like how they've developed as a college student, as a student in general. And so groups like that, and then Sherry will talk about Greek Life. Those organizations are important for forming that sense of community and helping you fit in, which is also an important extracurricular to have.
Hi everybody, my name is Nikhil Venkatesh, and I go to the University of Florida, as you can see up there, and I'm studying computer engineering, and I just finished my first year. So as soon as I got into UF, I'm like, crap, what do I study? And everyone told me, do business, do pre-med, do this, do that, and I sort of didn't know myself, and I still don't know right now, but I'm choosing computer engineering because I know I like math and physics. So I think it's important to find out like what you like to do, and what you like to do, you should make that what you actually do. So start exploring what you like to do early, and that will help a lot in deciding what you want to study. And another thing I would recommend is once you're in college, you should start exploring like all the organizations and anything that interests you as soon as you start. Like a lot of people say you're just a freshman, you should just be like getting used to stuff and things like that, but I think you should like look into research opportunities and see where the school has to offer. So one of the things that I sort of started looking into was research in 3D printing of optics. That's what those big words mean. But I haven't started it really, but I've been sitting in a lot of meetings. So it's really cool, like the things that research can do, and once you enter college, like the whole scope of what you can do just exponentially increases. And I'm supposed to be talking about transition and how life, like in high school, is different than life in college. And I sort of see college like a nice cruise out in the ocean where you have to go to a couple classes and things like that. But it's really great, and there's no more school buses, there's no more parents telling you what to do, there's no more waking up in the morning. In fact, I actually like lived on campus, so I wake up like 2 minutes before class, brush my teeth, and like get my book bag and I run to class. So it's really nice, and you sort of get to do what you want to do. And yeah, so transitioning academically, don't be scared of failure. I remember my first exam I ever took, Physics 1 with Calc, and I was like, yeah, I'm an engineer, man. I can take physics head on. So I walked into my first exam. I studied a little bit because I took high school physics, not that I was like the master. And I got like 50% on my exam, and then I come back like as soon as I exit the exam, I feel like obliterated. I'm like walking back to my dorm shaking, and then like this junior approaches me and he's like, "Don't worry, man, it happens to everybody. Everyone fails in physics class." He's like, "This is my second time taking it." Like, so I felt a little better, but yeah, so don't, and I got an A in the class, so yeah, but it doesn't really matter if you fail, just like get yourself up. And exams in colleges, you're supposed to like fail them. That's like normal, because that's the average. And so that's academics, like don't be scared of failure. And number 2 is social change. So once you leave high school, everything is different in college, as in all the people you see, like they're new faces to you. And since I go to UF, it's like a really popular school for in-state, right? And I do see a lot of people that like I've seen in high school and things like that, but it's sort of after the first month, you don't like talk to them as much, and you sort of form your own little circles and little cliques. So yeah, and people are a lot more accepting, and it's important to find your niche, make connections, and it's really easy too, since like if you live in the dorms, which I recommend to everybody, you get to like know each person in every single room, and the dining hall is like everyone is like really down and chill to like talk and just like have fun. Another change is the lifestyle and the housing. And I live like in the most traditional of all traditional dorms at UF, and I was in a triple economy where we shared like a small little room about the size of, I don't know, like probably like this much of the stage. So like we had common bathrooms, and like 3 people, like one guy's a 6'2", like Croatian white guy, and like they share a bunk bed, and it's always like people like, you don't have your bubble anymore. The bubble is like officially popped. You can't like have any privacy, and yeah, there's a lot of like funny stories with my roommates. But housing is totally different, and it's simple, and you learn how to be independent and responsible, and I like that. And yeah, so I just wanted to say like, don't be scared of change. And like I remember when I started college, like, are you flashing that? Crap, man. Okay, I remember when I started college, like I was super scared. My dad was like, "You're gonna be going to hostel, son." And like when I was growing up, my dad was telling me these harsh stories about hostel life and like how he had to shower in cold water showers. And I'm like, I remember crying like back when I was 10 or whatever to my mom. They were like, I was like, "Please don't send me to hostel, Mom. Please don't send me to hostel." And then so like last year I was super scared how dorms are gonna be, and like slowly you transition and you end up liking it, and I really miss living in the hostel. All right, to jump to the fun stuff, which is school pride. And okay, I did some organizations, and I think Accent Speakers Bureau is like the best thing I ever did at UF. It's like an organization that brings in like these sweet prominent speakers to school, like bring in like the whole auditorium is filled, and they just bring celebrities basically to talk, and it's cool to meet them. And college pride, UF is like the Gators, like during the college game days, when it's like it's a football game, the entire school is packed. It's like after a war, like that's how, like, you know when you celebrate after you win a war, that's like the celebration that occurs. It's like crazy mayhem. Like everybody's like, if you see somebody and they're wearing orange and blue, they're like, "Go Gators!" And then like you say, "Go Gators back!" And that's the picture of the game. So like being in that environment is really something. And it's not just football. It's not just football. Like this year our team didn't really do too well, but there's gymnastics, basketball, and living in the center of campus, that really allowed me to like experience the heart of the Gator Nation. Yeah, so go Gators.
My name is Shreya Mohan. I am going to be a sophomore at Emory University. Emory University is in Atlanta. No, not Emory-Riddle. It's Emory University. I do have a scholarship to Emory, which is partially the reason why I went, but it also definitely helped me in a lot of ways form friendships before I even got there, because I got to meet a bunch of the other scholarship winners, and now we're very, very close. We hang out all the time. We do a lot of weird things, like once we went into a classroom that was open at night, we just watched movies, ate popcorn, and s'mores. And then afterwards, we put a chair in the elevator, and we just sat in the chair. And so every time people use the elevator, they like saw us in the elevator, just sitting on this chair. and we pretended like nothing happened, but then those people like Snapchatted us, and we ended up being on Emory's Snap Story. So fun things happen. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about Greek life because I'm actually double Greek. That means I'm involved in a professional business fraternity, which is co-ed, so I am called Brother Mohin. And then I'm also in a sorority, which is a social Greek life, and that is Alpha Delta Pi, so I'm also a sister. And a few of my actual pledge brothers from Alpha Kappa Psi are also in AD Pi with me, so we're called brothers and sisters, and we like hold hands, and everyone thinks we're really weird. So one of the few, there are so many benefits I say come from Greek life. Granted, it's not for everyone. I'm one of those people that really likes things like this, that really likes, these really close-knit groups that, everyone just kind of bonds together, and I really love that. But it's not for everyone. Other people, have their own, friendships outside of this, but I didn't really have many, best girlfriends until I went to AD Pi. I'm one of those people where, all of my friends are guys, and my parents are like, do you have any friends that are girls? But, when I joined AD Pi, I ended up finding so much sisterhood, which sounds really, cliche. But because of that, I now have so many best girlfriends that I hang out with. They all love Harry Potter as much as I do, so it's actually the most perfect thing ever. We also all love to eat a lot, so we always bond over that, where everyone else is done with their first lunch, and we're like, haha, we're on our third. So, so now I'm also in AK Psi. Alpha Kappa Psi is a professional business fraternity. It is the largest and most prominent, I think, business fraternity in the United States. So the purpose of it is basically for everyone who joins has to go through a pretty extensive pledge process. The pledge process includes things like resume help, interview skills, cover letter help, learning professional etiquette. So much of it, I think I learned a ridiculous amount of information my first semester of college. By the end of it, I already had my first summer internship because I gained the confidence and the skills necessary in order to proceed with networking. So before this, I didn't even realize the importance of networking, and then I went to a networking event that Emory had. It was brought to you by the Career Center, and so I went to this event not really knowing exactly what I was getting into, and I was just talking to a bunch of people who owned nonprofits, because eventually I want to start my own nonprofit. So I thought, wow, what if I got an internship on the management side of one of these prominent nonprofits? So I was just talking to people, and then I ended up having a conversation with this guy who told me all about how he was really interested in educational policy. And I thought, hey, wait a minute, what I want to do in life is actually lobby for better educational policy. So we had a huge conversation. It lasted the whole event. I was there for about an hour and a half just talking to this one guy. And then at the end of the conversation, he said, hey, I know this really cool internship in Colorado. Maybe I can talk to the person who runs it and you can be an intern there. I was like, oh my God, okay, as a freshman, that's awesome. So I took his card and I emailed him a bit later and emailed him same day. That's important, always do that. And then he responded back saying, well, I talked to those people. They want to keep it local, but I'm starting it up here in Atlanta. And I was like, okay, and he was like, yes, the intern I will be doing this job. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know if he's going to take me on as an intern now. He's talking in the third person. And so I keep emailing back and forth with this guy. I sent him my resume in all the hopes that he takes me on as an intern. And then about December, because this happened in October, and in December he said, hey, will you be my intern for the summer? And I was like, yes, I will. So now I'm going to be an intern for doing exactly what it is I want to do in life. I'll be working with nonprofits and the government to work on educational reform and policy. So it happens. And I actually credit almost all of this to AK Psi, giving me the confidence, giving me the resume, giving me all the skills I need in order to talk to this man and get an internship from him during my first year of college. Also, another benefit from being in AK Psi is now I have so many friends that are all working all over the United States. So we actually recently had our senior exit ceremony, obviously because a lot of the seniors are graduating. And I probably was like the most hysterical one there. So they were all getting ready to leave, and I was like actually the most upset about this because, especially in AK Psi, it's generally smaller than a sorority. So there's about 90 people, and there are about 20 seniors. The thing with AK Psi is you get to meet every single one of those seniors, and I've had amazing conversations with each of them. So during the senior exit ceremony, I was like, I promise I'm not going to cry, and then I started bawling. And I started laughing at the fact that I was bawling. So I started like laughing hysterically while I was also bawling, and everyone thought I looked insane. But it was the most sad moment, but also the funniest moment of my life. So then I like recollected myself and I gave a speech, and then after that I realized that these two organizations, Alpha Kappa Psi and AD Pi, are the best things that could have happened to me during college.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sid, and I just finished my freshman year at Harvard, which is pretty wild. I can't believe it went so quickly. But there's so much change between high school and college. I just can't even relay it all to you. It's amazing. But if I were to sum it up in like 3 broad categories, the first one would be probably source of inspiration. So I would say all through high school, my inspiration always came from my family or my teachers or like role models, maybe like even sports figures or, people who do a lot of good work, like everyone above you sort of. But when you get to college, I think this more or less will hold true for most schools. The knowledge still comes from, your professors and mentors and stuff, but like your inspiration really comes from the peers, the people you have around you, the people you eat your meals with every day, the people who are telling you like what they found interesting in class, the people who show happiness and passion in what they do. And it's just so refreshing to see, especially when all these people show similar outlooks or similar preferences in terms of what they prioritize, despite coming from such different socioeconomic, cultural, geographical, almost every type of background. I can tell you the guy I'm rooming with next year, he's a Mexican-American guy from Seattle studying engineering, but the way we go about our daily routine, the way we make time for like the little things that we both value is so similar, and I would have never guessed that you would find that in someone else. And there's a lot of back and forth. And once you get into college, you realize why those things like affirmative action are in place. Like, I know when I was a senior in high school, I was like, darn, like, I'm an Indian American, like, this is gonna make it harder. But when you get to college, you see the benefits of that, and I've loved every second of it. The second thing I would say is your intellectual like vitality or your, what you find interesting. I know, especially amongst like the Indian American crowd, like a lot of people feel that they know what their child or son, daughter or son, or in this case, what you students think you want to do moving forward. But Harvard is, and most schools are claimed to be liberal arts education institutions, and the goal of that is to always broaden your mindset and really try to explore. Like, the undergraduate experience is not meant to be professional in any sense. It's meant to teach you how to think. And you can do that in any realm, not just what you're going to do with the rest of your life. And that's opened so many doors. I will tell you, in the first semester of college, I took a biochemistry class, one unit of which studied HIV. I took an African studies course, which is just, an introduction to all aspects of Africa, culturally, politically, socially, and from a global health perspective as well. And I also took a mathematical course that was studying biological systems, how to mathematically model biological systems. And I enjoyed all 3 in very different ways, but somehow all 3 correlate into global health studies, in Africa. And that's what I ended up doing this summer for my internship. I'll be going to Botswana for 9 weeks to work in an HIV/AIDS research lab. And there's zero way that would have happened if I hadn't taken African Studies course or a math course that I didn't have to for pre-med. It was just, like perspective broadening for intellectual interest. And that's the beauty of college in that sense. And I would say the third and final thing that changes is your daily routine. I'm supposed to talk about the rigor and how to handle the rigor. That all comes in your daily routine. So I wake up around 9:30 every day. I go to class. I always give myself an hour for lunch. In the middle, I'm studying during the day. I come back. I do club cross country and running or track there. So I always work out and run at 4 o'clock along the Charles River. Absolutely gorgeous. Come back, eat dinner, and then I study. And then I always have meetings throughout the week. It's a very fluid time period. Everything's very interesting, and it's just you try in a space that's so open and fluid. You try to find rigidity and structure, and that's the beauty of it. That's what's hard, and that's what makes the experience awesome. Also, the daily routine. Also, in terms of meals and stuff, all your friendships are sort of put into a time machine. Everything goes way faster. The friends I made this year in just 1 year have they're on a level that I didn't even know existed, even though I've had people around me for so long. So I'd say those are the three main things of college. As everyone had said, don't be afraid of the workload. The college application process it works for a reason. You're in a school that you belong 99% of the time. So that means you are prepared. You just have to find how to deal with the things. There'll definitely be a learning curve. A lot of people have trouble with their first semester just learning how to deal with everything. But you're there for a reason. You're going to do fine. Academics is not this pure thing you should be worried about. You should figure out how to take classes you're interested in, deal with them, do well in them, and then use the rest of your time to meet people through organizations or through the activities that you're doing. And that'll just make for a really good college experience. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you guys all for your personal experiences of college. We all now have a taste of what it's like to go to college now. Thank you. Another round of applause.
So, I'm only a sophomore, and hearing them all talk, and I know it's coming to the end of the school year, and talking about school is kind of tedious, but this is really exciting, hearing all the stuff that you guys have done, and it's getting me excited for college too, I don't know. So, thank you once more. So.
I think we have time for questions, for a couple questions. Yeah. So, again, Uncle.
Hello. Thank you everyone for taking time to understand your college life. So I'm coaching high school students about robotics, and then I came across college texts, so just to teach them about physics and other things. I see physics books, chemistry books, and all. And what I'm seeing is the exercises on those books are written in MATLAB programming language, but then the college preparatory courses, preparatory classes, so in the high school, they do not teach linear algebra or MATLAB or anything like. So how important is that? So is it something helpful for them with the, prepare ahead of their college studies?
So to clarify, the question is the courses that you take in high school relevant to the courses you take in college?
No, this is especially linear algebra is not taught in the high school. So how good is that getting prepared about that?
I didn't know linear algebra in high school. I learned it. I took a MATLAB class actually last semester. So I don't quite understand your question, honestly.
Because
okay.
When you go to the first year college, so in one class you will be studying about math, so there is a dependency on the other classes, on physics and say chemistry or something. So they will be using linear algebra, right? So studying all of them at the same time, so does that cause any trouble for to getting prepared and doing well in our classes?
Well, okay, so the thing with that is there's obviously going to be something that you don't know when you come into college. And if you're, like with that, if you're having to learn, now I mean, I am not in computers, I'm not doing linear algebra, but you would take the course, like the base course first before you take another course that would ask you to build up on it. And in general, with just courses that you take in high school and the relevance to college courses, high school courses obviously are going to be a step below college courses. Their purpose is to give you a foundation, but not to completely overwhelm your knowledge. The purpose of college is to develop the knowledge in a certain field or in a certain subject, and not everybody knows everything about that complete subject. So that was mine.
For specific to your question about linear algebra, for example, if you go to like an engineering university, you learn about linear algebra in a variety of like circumstances. So whether you take chemistry class, you learn about applications of linear algebra to chemistry or physics or whatever. So like Nivi said, the whole point of college is to teach you, or like in your case, so the best thing you can do for your students is probably expose them to as a wide variety of topics you can. It doesn't even have to be robotics related, because the whole point of college is to put all that together in courses you take.
Yeah, I'm supposed to take linear algebra next semester, and I think the school does a good job of like, to take a class, you should have that prerequisite of the class, like you said, linear algebra and MATLAB or whatever, but it's not the student's responsibility to like, I mean, he could do this just for like sheer interest, but if like work requires that knowledge, or whatever genetic studies you said requires that knowledge, and he's interested in that study, then he might want to learn that himself. But for the class itself, like Chem 1, you don't need like linear algebra unless you're looking at higher level studies of Chem.
Are there any other questions? Hi.
Hi. Looking back, what would you do different when you're applying for colleges as your senior? I think that's what they want to know.
Looking back, I honestly don't think I would have changed anything about the way I applied, because I feel like I ended up being exactly where I want to be / where I'm supposed to be. Right now I'm at Emory University, and like I really couldn't see myself anywhere else. I know back in high school I was so sure for a while that I was going to go to NYU and I was going to be a psychiatrist, and then I changed my mind and I was like, oh my god, I'm going to be an architect and I'm going to go to Brown, and now I'm like so sure I'm going to run a nonprofit at Emory. So I mean, there is time for me to have like changed my mind, but right now I feel like I'm exactly where I should be, and I don't think I would ever change anything about that.
I think hindsight's 2020. So like obviously I applied to like 14 schools. If I knew I was going to Harvard, I would just apply to Harvard and saved all that time. But like, but besides that, I would say the biggest thing is the question. Every time you go to visit a school, or every time you go to an interview, they always ask you, do you have any questions? I guarantee you most of you are asking the wrong questions. Like, they're the questions that like I wish I would have asked are like on like a totally different level. Like my questions were like when I in my pen interview was like, is Penn fun? Or like how often do people go into the city? Like things like that. But like things you want to ask are like do you think that like for example, Harvard has a general education system, so you have to take 8 classes that are like in these separate categories that may or may not be related to your major, but like it's supposed to be for the liberal arts aspect of it, so that you know like more things, not just what you're studying. So like questions I would have asked is like, how is the general education system at Harvard? Like, do you think it's beneficial? Like, are the classes like just joke classes that you just have to take because they're gen eds, or are they like really cool in terms of like improving your like intellectual like vitality or like things that you like may want to study moving forward? Like those are like you really want to like talk to someone there and like ask about the curriculum and the courses, like who teaches the courses, is it the professors, is it the TFs, like demystify any myths like about the courses that or about the classes you're going to. Like those are the questions you want to ask and really think about. I always draw on the distinction between I think it's Columbia and Brown. They're both liberal arts schools, but Columbia has like a very rigid system. Like you have to take like you have to take the math, science, the history, and the English and all this stuff. And that's liberal arts in the sense that you're like studying all these different things. But Brown is also liberal arts, but in Brown you can study whatever you want. Like you take whatever courses you want. But that's also liberal arts because you can take all these different subjects. But it's up to the student to take that initiative. So it's like which curriculum do you like better? That's a huge, like if you get into both those schools, like that could be a deciding factor if you don't ask someone like or know that like those are the questions you want to ask when you're applying to school.
Okay, so I wouldn't change anything about my application, but I will say that I was the kind of person that in high school I was so focused on my academics that I think I almost stressed myself out too much to a point where now that when I look back at it, or even in college, like my grades, if there's a grade that I don't like, I know that I put forth my best effort to get the grade that I could have gotten, but if I didn't get it, it's okay and life moves on. And I think that's one big thing with the college application process, and for those seniors and juniors that are going to apply, like just be accepting of like how the process goes, because not everything is in your control. And I took a higher education policy class this past semester. It was a first year seminar. So something that I learned from reading so many articles from admissions officers and from universities is that they're placing a lot more emphasis on SATs and ACTs than they are on GPAs from students that are applying to college from high school. And obviously it varies year by year between schools and between colleges. But the reason for this is people come from such different backgrounds. And I noticed this when I went to UNC. There's kids from like the country, and there's this guy that I'm friends with who literally, he has to drive 20 miles to school, which I drove 20 miles to school every day. But he doesn't have anybody around him for 20 miles. The first thing that he comes across from his house after driving 20 miles is his school. So there's people from places like that, from like the countryside of North Carolina, from across the world and from across the country who have different backgrounds. And the only way colleges kind of like balance all of this is using something that's standardized, SATs and ACTs. So if you're in the position where you're like stressing yourself out like I did in high school, like don't do it. Like just, like take a breath and like enjoy life and remember you're still a kid, and like you'll end up where you're supposed to end up. And I think we'll all agree that we've ended up where we wanted to.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, don't be stressed out over standardized testing, because I know I was stressed out, like overly stressed out, because let me just tell you my quick story. So 10th grade, I walked into the SAT, I didn't study at all. I'm like, yeah, I should be fine. And then I got a 1650, and not saying that's bad or anything, but like that summer, I was like just obliterated. That entire summer, my parents were like criticizing me, and I used to be like a good smart kid, and then ever since that they thought like I was dumb or something. And like it's always like constantly being compared to like siblings, like compared to my older brother. Oh, he got this much higher than you, you're just a dumb little boy, you're gonna end up at so and so college or whatever. So like I was so stressed out that summer, and like I think that's unnecessary. I think you should just go at your own pace and like don't worry too much about standardized tests. Yeah, super score 2100.
I really wish I met the right people earlier on. And I think I only realized like halfway through like 11th grade that I really wanted to try engineering and apply to engineering schools, and I wanted to combine that with medicine. I also highly recommend, especially to parents here, do not restrict your children ever. Like I wish like I was a little more open with my parents about what it was I wanted to do. Like something like going to, so I was like very willing to apply to a red light district in India and volunteer at a home there, and I actually got in, but because I was afraid of what my parents would say, coming from a traditional, Indian household. Now I realize that they probably wouldn't have said anything because I know they're in complete support of me. But parents, let your children know that you're there for complete support, academic support. Whether if your kid wants to do something crazy, let him do it or her do it, because that'll take them to the best schools. And they'll let them meet the best people, and they'll have the most to say in the future. So.
Any other questions? Are we done with questions?
That's actually all the time that we have for questions. After the event, all the panelists will be on stage, so you can come up to them and ask them personally.
We love talking, guys. Come ask us questions. Seriously.
At this time, we would like Raveen to come up here to have a quick vote of thanks and also request all the JTM Youth Committee members and our previous panelists to come on stage too.
So I would like to start off by saying a big thanks to all the panelists who participated in spite of exams and busy schedules and donated their time to be able to speak today. And we have small tokens of appreciation for them as well. So for the first panel, we had Duncan Adkins, Aishwarya Nalakalai, Nehemiah Dureyes, Ramya Ravichandran, and Sharon Satya. And for our second panel, Alap Murali, Nivedita Jagadish, Nikhil Venkatesh, Shreya Mohan, and Sid Yarlagada. Thank you all again for your participation. One person that I would sincerely like to thank is Mrs. Usha Mohan, who is the mentor for the JTM Youth Committee. She has dedicated many of her hours to making this youth committee what it is today, and the youth committee would now like to thank her for her endless dedication and support.
I do want to say one thing. I think we need to give the JTM Youth Committee a huge round of applause. So these kids are 8th grade, 8th through 11th grade, and they put in a lot of work into this event, and they've learned a lot in this event. This is an event that is for kids, by kids, and we try to encourage that so they learn something in the process. We as adults can put together this event, that's not a big deal, but I think for them to put it together is tremendous. Hope you all enjoyed it today. Did you? Well, let's hear it for the kids. Thank you.
Also, I would like to thank the Jacksonville Public Library for being such a great partner, providing this facility, and supporting and marketing the event. Specifically, I'd like to thank Ms. Barbara Gibbons, who is the director of the library, who was unfortunately unable to make it today. But I would like to also recognize Ms. Laura Miner, who is the team coordinator for helping this event. Thank you. I I would also like to thank the JTM Executive Committee for supporting us in many ways and for also their support. Another huge thanks to Mr. Ramana Murthy for videotaping this event. And last but not least, a huge thanks to all the people who came out and attended this event and making it a success. Hope you all enjoyed it and learned something about what it takes to get into the great colleges of the U.S. and hope to see you all here someday too. If you joined the event, please sign up to make sure that you stay on our mailing list and get more emails about other events that we have about topics like this. And if you have any specific questions for the panelists, they will be staying for a while, so feel free to come and ask any questions.